presumably, based on the tax structure, that we wouldn't have hospitals that are closing down, schools overcrowding, and so forth. So that's my point.
Okay, the next question goes to Congressman Rohrabacher. A very straightforward question. If reelected, what will be your stand on Iraq policy in the next congressional session?
All right, well, let me just note that you have to talk a little louder so I can hear. We face a major challenge to the preservation of the peace and security of our families and our country. And these challenges happen to every generation. Years ago, we faced a challenge that it appeared that Nazism and Japanese militarism were going to take over the world, and we've got a horrible world on America not done what was right. Then communism, right immediately thereafter, everybody thought we could come back and relax, and no, communism threatened, an atheistic dictatorship threatened the world, and if it wasn't for America standing tall, it would be a far different world today, less peaceful and certainly no freedom. And now we thought after the collapse of communism that we'd have a chance to rest, but we are learning the truth, which is the fact that eternal vigilance is the price of liberty, it's also the price of peace. And we've got to do what is necessary in order to make sure that those people who hate our way of life, who despise us because of the equality that we have in our society with women and the way we treat people with other religions respectfully, they don't believe in those things. They murder their own people who try to object to them. This radical Islam is a threat, and we have got to face that and live up to it and live up to this challenge. Our children will face the consequences. Now, how does that deal directly with Iraq? Let me note that radical Islam has been dragged into this war. They are now engaged in fighting us in Iraq. It's a good thing that those radical Al-Qaeda and other radical Islamists are in Iraq fighting us, because if they weren't, they would be free to fight us other places, including here. I have no doubt there's been over 100 Saudis who've been killed by our troops in Iraq in recent days, last year. Those Saudis, the same kind of Saudis that flew the planes into the buildings, those people, it's good that they're dead. And it's good that we kill them over there rather than after some terrorist attack here. And I believe that any decision that we make, and we should be working towards the day when the Iraqi people can carry the load themselves. I think we've made a lot of progress toward that with elections and the creation of a 300,000-man army, and we are part of an evolution now so that they can take over that responsibility with our help. If we just instead decide to retreat and in a way that it looks like we are being cowardly, we will pay the price, our children will pay the price, because our enemies will be emboldened. Those people who hate our way of life will think that we're cowards and will extract a price on us. I will support basically those efforts that I believe are reasonable to try to thwart this enemy and to bring our troops home when it's the right time and not before.
All right, and how would your policies differ on this issue?
I can't possibly respond to this in 3 minutes. I'm going to talk as fast as I can, and then I'll get cut off. But I'll talk to everybody afterwards in the back or whatever you want. First of all, I was told a lot of these things during Vietnam. And we had a palm tree exercise out in 29 Palms once a year, every year in the late 70s, when all four services would get together. And in those briefings, we were told that terrorism would be the next threat. But we were taught about the multiplier effect, and that we learned from Vietnam and we wouldn't make the same mistakes. And that multiplier effect was when you don't have the support of your own population, when you don't have the support of the people in the country where you're invading, and you don't have the support of the surrounding countries, then it takes 3 or 4 times as much effort to do the same job. And they learned that there, and they told us that would never happen again. But of course, Don Rumsfeld knows more than the generals. And any of you that watched the Senate hearings with the 2 generals and the colonel that talked about what they said before we invaded Iraq and what it would take. And here we are. And now by the administration's own studies, 60% of the people want us out of there or want our people shot at. And we know darn good and well this isn't a political solution there. You've got 3 people that have hated each other for over 800 years. And we've got the arrogance of an administration to think that we can go in there and we can force our form of government on them. Now, one good thing, they did vote in a constitution that allows for area governments. And if there's some way that we can figure out how to distribute the oil revenue and control the borders, if we could get the president to back off his arrogant stay-the-course position, and be open to something that's workable, then I believe we should move a brigade out immediately into Kuwait and 2 divisions into Afghanistan and finish the job with Al-Qaeda and just control the border. And I think we should do it as fast as we can. No, that's it. Oh, I can keep going. Oh, 47 seconds. Okay. Well, like I said, the things that I learned from the Marine Corps from the previous war, and I don't need, and Dan isn't doing this, but I don't need anyone to talk to me about not being patriotic or cut and run or any of those things. Because I'm talking about making us more secure. I can't stand it that the press let the president get away with calling this a war on terror. Anybody that's been in the military knows that terror is a tactic, it's not an enemy. We should have declared the war on Al-Qaeda, and we should have focused on the ones that attacked us and and not outsourced it to warlords when we had him trapped there. And I've got plenty of friends that are still in the military that were really upset when that happened. So I think a war on terror, we've had that since the beginning of time. Cain and Abel. So that means by definition it never ends. So we'll always have the Patriot Act. We'll always have all these war powers. Now, that's not the way it is. Tell us definitions. When I was at Security Pacific, if I went to the board of directors with my product line and they said, Jim, you're losing money, when are you going to get it back online? And when are you going to take care of it? And if I say, well, it's going to take as long as it takes. And how much money is it going to cost? It'll cost as much as it costs. We need somebody in Congress to hold the administration accountable. We need a board of directors. I got pulled in every week when I had to stand up, and that's the way we need it now in Congress.
And your final rebuttal on this matter.
Let me just note, the question that we have now before us is not whether or not we should get involved in Iraq. And Jim may be correct in some of his criticism about the decision, when we made the decision to get in, whether to get in or not. But that's not what we faced. That decision was made, and we find ourselves in a situation, if we do not act with courage and responsibility, and we get out of the conflict, then the situation that we're in an improper way, in a way that encourages our enemies, we will pay a severe price for that. And I think that we have made, as Jim alluded to in the statement, there have been progressive things that have happened. We've actually got a government in the place of what used to be this lone dictator, Saddam Hussein, and we've got a parliament elected, and we've got a constitution, and we have an army that is 300,000 people who are being trained. When will this lead us to get out? I'm not sure. Do I have total faith in our president? Well, he's elected to make those decisions, and yes, I'm going to watch very closely. At this point, I would just have to say that we need to have courage, and when it doesn't make any sense to me, you will hear me criticize it. But at this point, I think our enemies are ratcheting up violence right now as we speak in order to demoralize the American people. And they know what we're going to do. They know what will happen if we appear to retreat from Iraq. What will happen is there will be no moderate Muslims on our side in this war against radical Islam. You're right, it's not a war on terror, it's a war with radical Islam. And if it looks like we're weak and we're retreating from our commitment to the people in Iraq who sided with us, not one moderate Muslim in this world will ever trust us again, and it will destroy our ability to provide security in this world.